Vic's the most interesting to me because he's completely brand new and playing such an integral role to the story, which means you can do whatever you want with him. There's no expectation. There's no fans getting pissy because you broke law. If they wanted, they could make Vic Robin. I have complicated feelings about this film.
That's better than Madam Web.
Yes. Oh,
Better,
absolutely.
stronger start than Madam Web. There is a lot of live game fans that were a bit upset with this season and how this season ended.
Oh, really?
Yes. Recall your mind back to I mentioned earlier in the season, I was like, oh, they're setting something up for Scanlan.
Yeah.
They didn't pay it out.
We both agreed last week after episode 7 that if they stick the landing, this is probably the best Marvel show we've had made by Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I really think they stuck the landing. Hello and welcome back to episode 136 of Cutscene Convos. We have got an absolutely jam-packed episode this week. We have got a character profile on the one and only Agatha Harkness. We have got the Vox Machina finale to discuss, episodes, 9,
10, 11,
no,
12.
10, 11, 12.
Yep.
Agatha All Along, double episode finale. The Penguin, episode 6. We've also got a review of Venom The Last Dance, and as always, we've got a big old helping of nerdy news. But before all that good stuff, Horizontal, how's your week been?
My week's been pretty good. As we were discussing before we started recording, I've pretty much spent the last week watching the Optic Gaming Race to Master Prestige. That's literally been, all 3 times it's been on a monitor, which has been, although I'm not interested in playing COD, been a lot of fun watching COD, I have to say. Optic will always be the team in my eyes. Other than that, kind of chilling, been working on kind of some job stuff. When I got my haircut finally, a fresh look from the barbers, something a little different.
Yeah, I like it.
I like
it's kind of mullet light almost.
Yeah. It's
like all of the good of the mullet without any of the drawbacks.
I said to my barber, I was like, modern mullet / burst fade, which is sort of like how the side's done. So which she was very excited to get to do something new on me. So
awesome.
Can't complain. And I yeah, pleased with it. Also, I love that usually I'm the one in the hat, and now it's flipped and you're the one in the hat this week.
I have worn a hat for 30 episodes, but normally, basically no one really ever sees me wearing a hat the correct way round.
Yeah, I never wear. I never wear a hat the right way around.
It was as simple as when I'm at work, I have my hair tied back because I work with machines, and having my hair down is literally a health and safety concern. And I got in, and I was like, I cannot be asked to take my hair down, put my hat on. So instead, it's just going through the back.
Fair.
So I can still wear my hat, but not have to worry about taking my hair out.
Don't blame you. And then other than that, kind of chilling. How's your week been?
My week's been pretty good actually. Just big chilling. Played some COD over the weekend. I like some bits. I don't like some bits. As with all games, it's very rare to love everything as part of a game, especially as you get older as well. Yeah, I mean COD's just COD, isn't it? It's never going to change that much. Then was around parents at the weekend as well for American football and sports and stuff, which is always fun. Work all week, just work. We've got a pretty chill weekend this weekend coming up. We're going to go see The Wild Robot.
I've heard good things about this.
Yes, yeah. We were like, you know what, we've not got anything going on this weekend, and let's go to the cinema. And The Wild Robot is like leaving cinemas really soon. I was like, I've heard it's really good. And it like was on a small budget, but it's made a good amount of money for that budget.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's go really give this a chance, because it feels like the kind of thing that doesn't happen often. So I'm looking forward to going and seeing that. But yeah, it's just been a busy week. It's felt very go. But not in a bad way, in the slightest. But let's get into some chatty stuff. Yeah, character profiles. Words, man. Words are hard. I know the English. Right, this week's character profile is on the one and only Agatha Harkness. I'm going to throw this at the top just so people don't think I've been lazy here. I did write this before watching the finale 2 episodes. I may have
He's lying to you.
written the information around slightly based on what I expected to happen.
Okay.
But this is written pre-knowing the outcome of the series. Agatha Harkness is an incredibly powerful and ancient witch. She made her debut in Fantastic Four number 94 in October 1969. With evidence suggesting Agatha was present 5 centuries before the fall of Atlantis 20,000 years ago, it's difficult to pinpoint Agatha's exact age. It's also incredibly difficult to know everything she's done and everywhere she's been. However, we do know by the late 17th century she had settled down in Salem, Massachusetts. It was in Salem she formed her own coven of witches, as she believed the New World would be the place they could finally practice their witchcraft openly and freely without persecution. However, this belief didn't create truth, and in fact, Salem would become infamous for its persecution of witches and witchcraft. Despite the horrors being faced by her people, Agatha wasn't completely sad. In fact, she partially agreed with the witch trials, as she believed a war was coming with humanity, and that these trials would get rid of the weak and all of the strong would survive and thrive to prepare themselves for the upcoming war. Fortunately, a time-stranded mutant known as Firestar was able to convince Agatha war wasn't the way forward, and as a result, Agatha uprooted her coven and moved to Colorado, creating the settlement of New Salem. It was in New Salem that Agatha would marry and give birth to her son Nicholas Scratch. She kept a low profile for a long time, following what had happened in Salem. Eventually, in a more modern era, she became a governess, where she taught children in need until her eventual retirement. This was, of course, until one job was offered to her she couldn't refuse: the nanny for Franklin Richards, the newborn child of Sue Storm and Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four. She served loyally as the nanny and often protector of Franklin, and was even the first to notice Franklin's incredibly strong reality warping abilities. Her protection didn't end at Franklin, however, as she on occasion has saved every member of the Four. When the Four teamed up with the Avengers to battle Ultron, Agatha sensed the Skull of Witch's power for the first time. She handed in her notice with the Fantastic Four, informing them there was nothing more she could do for Franklin, and decided to turn her attention to Wanda in an effort to help her control her powers and be more effective with them. She would go on to train Wanda until she married the Vision. As this was happening, Agatha's son had taken over New Salem, and he had had 7 children, the Salem Seven. The 7 were defeated by Wanda. The power Wanda absorbed by defeating the 7 was what enabled Wanda and Vision to have children. When the children were stolen by Mephisto, and Agatha tried to wipe Wanda's memory of this, Wanda had a breakdown and tragically killed Agatha. It was only when Wanda was investigating a magical illness on the Witch's Road she saw Agatha again in ghost form, the results of which returned Agatha to the realm of the living. As I'm sure you can all understand now, this is why I gave that pre-warning of this was written before seeing the finale.
Also, very different to the Agatha
Very
we've
different.
got.
Very, very different, but lots of this information has been reused in a way.
Yeah. Rather
They've
than
just kind of
basically, rather than
reconstituted.
Wanda has done these things, Agatha's done them herself in a way with a lot of those things.
Exactly. So obviously, as we know, I tell the character profile in chronological order. That is not the way it happens in comics. she was first introduced as
Yeah.
the nanny for the Fantastic Four. And then we
Right.
found out some of her backstory.
Got
So, in order of like release, it was Nanny, Wanda's trainer,
you.
died at the hands of Wanda, resurrected, and then we find out about her past.
Got you.
By which point she'd already been established as a pretty sympathetic character. So it was kind of difficult for them to like now, oh, she was evil in the past. It's more the evilness was her son.
Right.
So I would say it's almost like the evilness that in the comics is attributed to her son has been kind of passed on to her in the MCU. Even with like the Salem 7 in Agatha All Along were her coven that she killed, whereas in the comics the Salem 7 are her grandchildren. But nonetheless, a very interesting character, and it's interesting to see what the MCU does when it comes to characters like this, because Agatha's not a well-known character before the MCU.
No.
But they've still looked through at her and they've gone, we don't want to tell that story. I mean, granted, when they started Vagfa, they didn't have the Fantastic Four, so that limited them slightly.
Yeah, true.
But they knew that she was related to witchcraft and the Scarlet Witch. And like, how can we tweak who she is as a person while still keeping the core idea the same and give us something interesting? And I think it worked out pretty damn well.
Yeah,
and I would also be down for like Agatha gets resurrected and then is the nanny to Franklin Richards, because with her being established as a pretty mean-hearted woman, seeing her become a little bit sympathetic, having lost her own child, as we'll get into, to then be nanny for Franklin would be really funny. And I think they could have a lot of fun with her being less of like a strict governess and more as like a naughty nanny who just like dotes on him and he can do no wrong.
It'd be funny if they just like if they do something like that. It's like it's more the Fantastic Four are looking at applications and her file's just there, and they're like,
yeah,
do we trust her yet? But no, very cool character.
Funny. Yeah. Yes. Should we get into the Vox Machina finale?
Yes, we shall.
I knew he wasn't dead. I never wavered for a fucking second.
I want you to know they changed that not a huge amount, but like
was he dead for a lot longer?
No, they dragged it out in this. In the show, it was not dragged out like this. Also, was tweaked a little bit for. So, okay, before I get into because I will say, I've tried my best to, although I've watched the live game. Obviously, it's very hard to not be biased to the original media. Often, like book readers to films. I want your opinion before I open up the world of like comparing to what actually went down in the show and stuff. This season, and just in general, these first 3 seasons up to this end point, that was very clearly we're all gonna go our separate ways for a little bit. To you, did it feel like Scanlan's character arc made sense? To where he went through all this stuff and then he kind of got he's ended at like the happy ending sort of thing, going off with his daughter.
I would say it makes sense. I would say it was too fast though. Logically, I see how we got where we got. He was a womanizer, he did whatever he wanted. He then, because he moved around so much, he never had to deal with the repercussions of being a womanizer. The second he was confronted with that was a big moment for him. And he was like, oh shit, he reevaluated his life. He decided he wanted to be part of his daughter's life. And then you get some hijinks there. But it felt very much like they wanted to tell that story this season. But it's a much less compelling story when compared to Percy's dead and the relationships of Keyleth and such and all of this. So it became a B and sometimes C plot, and also never got its own episode at any point. But I genuinely thought whichever episode it was when he goes off and they come back and they get attacked by the dragons, I assumed the next episode was going to be what Scanlan was doing while he was away.
Hmm.
And we didn't get that. So I would say the story makes sense,
Right.
but
Yeah.
a bit of exposition would have been better.
Okay, so that's the live game fans. I would say there are plenty that are. This is a different, like, aren't pissed. There is a lot of live game fans that were a bit upset with this season and how this season ended.
Oh, really?
Yes. And
Get
recall your mind
recognized.
back to I mentioned earlier in the season, I was like, oh, they're setting something up for Scanlan.
Yeah.
They didn't pay it out. And like,
Oh, okay.
Don't get me wrong. So it's tough because obviously in my eyes, I'm like, oh, I have this thing that's come in, and it was such a huge pivotal moment. And I don't think they're really going to touch it the way they did, so I don't think it really classes as a spoiler now.
Is it kind of too far gone for them to really do it even remotely in the same way?
Yeah, I don't think they do it in the same way. I think they maybe touch on similar notes, but essentially, we got the episode that all ended got kind of a similar, almost the same conclusion, was called Bard's Lament. This was more of a Bard's Melody. Like, he got the happy ending. In the live game, it wasn't a happy ending.
Oh, he didn't get to reconcile with his daughter.
So the thing I think a lot of the fans the ones that are annoyed, need to remember, in the live game, Ashley Johnson, who played Pike, wasn't there all the time because she was off working. Often her character would be written off somewhere, or she would be there and the group would just run her. But obviously you're not going to get the same RP interactions through that.
Yes.
And also, through a lot of the live games, Scanlan's character was kind of treated as like the womanizer, the joke, the sleazy one. They pulled pranks on him a lot. Wasn't very well, not in a nasty way, but like the group didn't take him seriously. And it all built up when he found out about his daughter and stuff. And the same thing happened. He became unconscious. And while he was unconscious, they pranked him, covering him in chocolate pudding.
Okay.
His lifeless body. And then Pike thought, oh, he's not waking up. What if we go get his daughter? Brought his daughter. But Scanlan had a different reaction to that, which was he flipped out at the group.
Oh, okay.
Like, he was pissed. And it was a very intense, emotional moment in the live game. And Scanlan essentially was like, I can't believe you would bring her, because he saw it as he'd promised to his daughter, I'm not going to die. And they've brought her, and his character's point of view was, you've just shown her my lifeless body, which means I broke my promise to her. None of you care about me. And then there's like, the iconic line is, like, and this is an intense moment they're RPing, and he goes, you guys don't know anything about me. What's my mother's name? And none of them actually know. And they're all sat there silently. It's like, what about my dad? Is he even alive? And it's like, essentially, he's upset and he leaves. In a very intense way of like, none of you actually care about me. I don't want to be here anymore. Which obviously, for this show, I don't think made sense.
No, and they can, in my opinion, with where we currently are, I think they can rework that in a better way.
Potentially.
I think, especially now that they know people aren't happy that it was missed. So I think they can make it so he's reconciling with his daughter, and they get kind of pissy with him for putting them on the back burner. And then he's like, fuck you guys. You know nothing about me. I'm trying to... You and Percy get to be together. You and Keyleth are doing your thing. None of you give a fuck about my life. I'm trying to have a relationship with my daughter. And I think that would be a more a more powerful kind of way to tell that.
They're like, obviously, a lot of fans were waiting for this moment, and me included. I was like, oh, this is like, timeline wise, I was like, this is coming. I kind of overlooked that it wasn't being set up the same, like story beat wise, and I think I would have still enjoyed it if they'd done it. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think the story arc they'd put Scanlan on this in the animated series was different, and it would have not made as much sense for him to blow up at the group like he did when you've had Pike being supportive and them, like, him having that support system there a bit to go and try and reconcile with his daughter. And he hasn't been made the joke or pranked as much. Like, it wouldn't have made sense. While I think what they did in the live game was a very intense story, and actually, in my eyes, was a bit of a better story arc for him, I don't think it would have made sense for this. But it also kind of, I think, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the season. I really enjoyed the animated show. I felt like this season, this has been backed up because Sam's done an interview. The season was very much we don't know if we're getting a fourth season. We're going to cram this in and try and end it in a way that's fine. And personally, I think they're stupid for not thinking they weren't going to get a fourth season.
There is, and like this absolutely, like, I know it's on Amazon, but this kind of comes back to us going, fuck Netflix for constantly cancelling stuff after one season, even if it does really well. There is the mindset of writers now is so pessimistic about whether they're going to get renewed that they either feel a need to not accomplish anything in a season so that fans are like, oh, well, we need to know what happens to put a bit of pressure on, or they feel a need to cram an ending in, like a definitive ending, so that if they don't get another one, they can go, well, you can just imagine what happens because this is like a natural point. And as a result, you don't get them willing to be a bit more flexible because they're nervous. Because imagine if they'd have written it the way maybe it needed to be written, and then it doesn't get a fourth season for whatever reason, then everyone's like, well, where was that going?
I get that. My opinion.
It's like the old Toy Story.
Here's my thing. Critical Role knows their fandom is strong. They know their fandom's loving this animated show. Like, it's going to get the viewership from them alone. If they've made a deal where it's more than, like, Amazon has more ownership than just distribution, they're kind of stupid for that. Because if it's me, you write the story that is the best story, and if that means it's going to end on a bit of a cliffhanger, and then Amazon goes, we're not renewing, you go, okay, either Critical Role could make this themselves and could distribute. They've started their own streaming thing, a bit like Dropout, for their own content. Like, they could do the fourth season elsewhere. Like, they could figure it out or go somewhere else and sell it. And I think they were a bit naive to think they weren't going to get one, which has meant, and Sam said they didn't want to end it in a way that felt unresolved, so they crammed a lot in. But I actually think it made for a worse season because you lost a lot of things. Like, you lost I don't think this season felt like a adventuring group, like with a family-esque dynamic. It was constant duos going off and doing things.
Yeah.
It was very split because they were trying to cover so many storylines, which then lost, in my opinion, lost a lot of things. The whole Percy arc, I didn't hate that they dragged it out a bit more and made it more like intense with it, Ripley.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't like was it should have been everyone was there to kill Ripley, which Vax's character says everyone should have been here. Yes, they fucking should have been. In the live show, like, Percy going down in the fight in the live game and then them having to finish the fight was so intense, knowing that Percy was, like, dead.
Doing death saving rolls and then dying and shit.
Yeah. To which is what led to Vex got the killing blow and got the how do you want to do this? And she says, I want an arrow through the heart. And as she screams, an arrow through her mouth into her throat. And like, that is an intense moment. I think it would have been much cooler in the animated show if rather than splitting it up, had been they walk in, see Percy's dead body, then fight Ripley in that like intense and do what essentially they did on the boat, but do that straight away. You could have still dragged. You could have.
They could have still dragged out the bringing Percy back.
Yeah, they collect his body and his gun and everything, and like the gun could have just been in somewhere, and then Vax hears from the gun. He's like, "Hang on, guys, I think he's," and figures it out still later, because they immediately went off and had to do something else. Also, the Fordak fight was cool. And the Raishan fight was cool. I think the Raishan fight was severely lacking though. Like in the live game, that was the hardest fight they ever fought, and they all almost nearly died. Yet in this, Keyleth 1v1 Raishan.
Yeah. The only thing I will say, compared to maybe previous seasons, and I'm saying this as someone who now understands D&D more than I did while watching the first two seasons, the fight scenes felt less inspired by what happened in the session, and more like they were, right, this is a fight, we're just going to animate a fight.
Yeah, and I think that came from them trying to cram a lot of stories into this. Like, they wanted to get Keyleth further along in her Aramonte. They needed the relationship going on. They knew they were going to have to deal with Percy and Scanlan dying, essentially. And all the chromacon. Like, they had a lot to fit in one season, which then meant they fights kind of, because they were split groups, they kind of less were D&D inspired. Like, I think the Raishan fight would have been so cool if it had been more D&D driven, in like lots of them were clearly like ropey, almost dying, and then Keyleth stepped up and was the one that like clutched up.
And I guess on like, because obviously we're not trying to bash them for the sake of it.
No. Like,
and in their defense as well, had they decided to essentially make this season 2 seasons so they could give everything the time it deserved, the passing of Thordak's voice actor, I'm forgetting his name.
You've made me blank now.
Yeah, I've absolutely blanked. Lance Reddick.
Lance, that's it.
Yeah, the passing of Lance Reddick would have made it so they had to change voice actor. They wouldn't have had a choice.
Yeah.
Which would have taken away in a different way. So it's one of these things, it's never perfect. I completely get why people who enjoyed the live show and the live show created this opportunity would be unhappy at things being changed. I get that. But on the flip side, what is the point of adapting something if you just recreate it word for word? With an adaptation, there is like this kind of nature of change something, otherwise what's the point? I can't remember who said it, but an artist said, if you're just going to make the same thing, what's the point of it being made?
I agree, and this isn't me back. Like, I'm very much, I did enjoy this. I don't think it's like, oh my god, they ruined it, this season was terrible, like some of the fans have been. I was hoping they were going to set up the Scanlan stuff, because I've seen that happen, and I'm like, oh yeah, I get to see it animated. Does it make sense for the story? No. If he'd just blown up at them, you would have been like, you would have been like, why is he just turned on them all?
Why Scanlan got so pissy?
Would I have liked them to have been setting that up? Yeah, of course. But like, I do think my issues and a lot of the issues that the fans are having, but like getting too stuck on, it's more so like they didn't know they were going to have a 4th season, and whether or not you agree that they should have believed that. And like, I personally think they should have known they were going to get a 4th season. Like, this has been great. They have such a strong fan base. Like, the chances of them not getting a 4th would have been wild. So they should have written it that way. But I get them trying to reach a point where they can, if this is the end, that was the end. Because also, like, the 1-year break came a good jump later. Also, which this doesn't change things or spoil things, but it's like the break was similar to how they set it up the difference being Keela finished her Aramente, then on the break got to like deal with deal with like what comes next for after completing it. And Percy and Vex were in Whitestone, and it was a good kind of, they had like a in-game character break and a break IRL. But I don't mind them pulling that forward. I just think there was a lot crammed into the season, which it's just the way it was.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily made the season terrible in how they've handled things. There's some just small things for me. It's like the Raishan fight, I felt lost a lot of weight. The Scanlan thing, I would have liked Bard's Lament, but it doesn't mean, like you said, and I'm sure they will try to do, bring some of those elements in next season.
Absolutely.
And
I think changing Scanlan blowing up over them caring to them, because before he blew up because he misconstrued a nice actor bringing his daughter, they can change it so that instead of him blowing up about that, they make it so that he gets angry at them going, right, Scanlan, we need your focus. And he's like, you guys have got your lives. Let me have mine. And I think they can make that work in a more impactful way.
They've set up the next big bad. I know who it is. I'm not going to spoil it. Which is like they've ended it in a way that like potential big bad in the future, if it ends here, whatever. I think the way they'll do it is that's going to start gathering momentum. They'll be like trying to get this group, the team back together, and it'll probably play it off as like Scanlan doesn't want to leave his daughter. He's finally like you say, he's finally getting to build a life. They've all had that. He's now getting that, and that's where I think they'll try and kind of blend it in.
I think that works really well for the story they've told in the show. There is only one thing that the show did that made me wince consistently.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's a thing in America or if it's just being English and growing up in the area I'd grown up, that it made me uncomfortable. Grog's nickname for Pike.
Oh.
Yeah. That's not really... I don't think that would be a thing that most Americans are aware of. But every time he said that with Grog being the lovable guy he is, a little bit of me winced.
Do you mean the buddy thing?
No. Like, his extension of the name Pike.
Oh. So he only did it a couple of times, I think.
Yeah, but every time he did it, I was like...
Okay, yeah. No, most of the time, yeah, they would call themselves each other buddy, because that's what they do at the table. Him using the extension of Pike definitely is a British thing, and I don't think they realise...
I don't think Americans know. So for anyone who's not in the UK, or even people in the UK don't understand, there is a term for people of Romani Gypsy descent, which is a horrible term that is used, which is that Grog used a few times as a nickname for Pike. And again, like I said, I don't think that would have really got across to the American... I think it's very much a British term.
Yeah, it is. I think
but every time I heard it,
UK,
I was just like, oh, it's one of them ones where you just see a cultural difference. I was like, oh, I don't like, especially with Grog being like such a friendly, lovable character. I was like, that feels so weird.
Yeah, I remember when it first was said, and I was like, that's a different thing in the UK.
Yeah.
Also, though, in that moment, being like, I know it's because they're US, and I know they won't mean anything by it because they're not like that. But
I would like them to just stick to Buddy next season. For the love of God.
But then in my head, I'm like, I don't feel like they used that at the table really, from when I remember the live games. But obviously, I'd not watched them for a long time.
I feel like if they would have been using it at the table, someone in the chat at some point
probably
would have informed them.
Yeah, I get that. I will say also, staying on Grog, I feel like because they crammed a lot in with the different storylines, Grog kind of got sidelined to just
Grog got stiffed this season.
Yeah,
Grog,
which was a shame.
But Grog had a really good second season. Season 2 was a lot of Grog lines. But yeah, he was absolutely there as comic relief. Fortunately, Grog is one of the best comic relief characters ever written, so he excelled in that position.
In this story, there's plenty of moments of comedy that happened at the table. I think, unfortunately for him, because they changed Scanlan's character a bit, he lost some of those moments there. Like, his moment when Scanlan died is a lot more intense at the table. but obviously they didn't have that really this time because they did it differently. It's just things that, like you say, they're adapting it, and obviously when you adapt things, story does change a bit, and I'm not against that. My issue that this season is it just felt like they crammed a lot in because they were scared they weren't getting a season 4, which I get. I just think they should have known they were going to get a season 4.
My plea to Amazon and the studios for next season: give us 16 episodes instead of 12, and bring it down so it's not 3 episodes a week. I can make my peace with 2 a week. I would prefer a 2-episode premiere, a 2-episode closing, and then 1 episode a week in between.
Yeah, no,
Treat it with the quality it deserves, because, and maybe this is just a me thing, the more episodes you throw out at a time, apart from an opening and a closing, it feels like you don't respect it. To put it in context, we're about to talk about Agatha and Penguin. Penguin started before Vox Machina, and we're going to still be talking about Penguin for another 3 weeks after this.
Yeah. No, I get you. I fully do.
Like forgetting even how much you respect the show and how much you spent on the show and all the hard work that's gone into the show, give yourself a chance for a podcast as world-renowned as our own to speak about you for more time.
Yeah. Do you know what I think? I kind of realize what I think it is. They've catered more to their live game audience because their live game audience was used to sitting down on a Thursday evening for 4 hours straight and watching the game once a week. So they're like, oh, well, if we just give them a 20-minute episode, they're going to feel like, what the fuck? That was like nothing. They've been too worried about that, I think, that conversion that they did the triple.
If they want to give more, go to 8 1-hour episodes. So we still get the same amount of time as if we're doing 16 20-minute episodes or 30-minute episodes.
Yeah.
And do that instead. If they want to give it like more substance
for season 4 is I like them to write the story in the way that is gonna not feel rushed. So if they have to write it like, look, this story's next bit of story is going to be 2 seasons, get Amazon to greenlight that. I don't want them to end up in the same again now, where they write season 4 worried it's going to end at season 4 and they try to cram in a lot. Because I think, going off what I can remember, I'd say there's like 2 seasons worth of story left. Like, in a condensed enough but written well way. I hate for them to try and cram that into 1 season because they're scared of not getting season 5. Because then that just makes for a bad end, like a rushed end to what is
absolutely
a pretty cool arc. But these are also things they might learn from for 99, hopefully.
Yeah. And like, let's be honest, me and you are kind of the opinion that for most good shows, 5 or 6 seasons is the sweet spot. More than 6 seasons, you have to be a masterpiece of TV to still be worth watching after that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if they would have given season 3 the 2 seasons it probably needed, and then you say there's 2 more seasons worth of story, that would have put us at 6 seasons, which is probably the exact right amount of TV.
It's funny because now I'm thinking about it. There was so at the end of the campaign of campaign 1, there was a moment that happened that was purely by player choice, which then Matt was like, well, that's going to be a one-shot special at some point. And then down the line, they did a one-shot special. I'd love if they do 2 more seasons, and right at the end of like season 5, that moment happens, and we get a like movie level length animated thing
really cool.
of that one-shot thing. And
that'd be very cool.
That's how they kind of round out.
Give us a 90-minute one-shot special.
Yeah. I think that'd be a really good way, and that's my hope. But like, and don't get that me bashing on things. It's not so much it's just.
It's all been very constructive. You've not just been negative. You've been like, I would have rather they do it this way.
Because, and I think if there are any Critical Role live game fans that happen to listen to this who were pissed, I think you need to just kind of, we're lucky to even have this. This started off as a random live show on Twitch. Like, the fact that they've got so big that we got an Amazon
no
funded
one
animated
who
show.
was sat there watching Campaign 1 live as it came out ever expected this.
No, never. And it's like, I get why people were upset and were like, well, I didn't get the thing that I wanted. I just say, like, look at it try to step back and look at it as like how this story has been told and why, look, it wouldn't make sense. Yes, there is some things they could have done better. Is it the end of the world? No. Is the show still great? Yes. Like, enjoy it for what it is.
Exactly.
And I mean, I'm looking forward to season 4 at least.
Absolutely. On to our next finale of the episode, Agatha All Along. We both agreed, we both agreed last week after episode 7 that if they stick the landing, this is probably the best Marvel show we've had made by Disney Plus.
Yeah, we did.
I really think they stuck the landing.
So do I. Also, can I just say I fucking called it? That something was off about the Witch's Road with the subway. And I was like, is this similar to Wanda in like things were glitching a bit? Don't get me wrong. Didn't expect this to be the twist. So but I was just like, I said it last week. I was like, something just feels weird about the subway bit. And like, maybe there's nothing.
I don't know if I said it on here, and no one's going to fucking believe me, but I think you will because you know me well enough. In the episode where we see Billy before episode 1, like his flashback episode, when we go into his bedroom for the first time, you can see all of them things that like are part of the big reveal. And I literally pointed at them and I went to Jen and I was like, oh, look, they've been some of the episode designs. Literally glazed straight over it, but I spotted, I was like, oh, look, there's this, there's that, there's that. Literally, I spotted it, whoosh, straight over my fucking head. I was just like, oh, that's a cool nod to the fact of like what's inspired the episodes, and not gone further than, oh wait, he's the son of the Scarlet Witch who also has reality warping powers.
Yep, we should have known, really. Like as soon as I was like, the subway's weird, I should have latched onto that more and been like, but
just the perfect level of, we're gonna make you feel like a dumbass for not noticing this.
Do you know what it also is? It's been long enough since Wanda that we've forgotten some of the reveals and tricks that happened, which has, although it seemed, we were like, oh, it's been ages since this character, is this actually going to be a decent show? Actually, that's played massively in their favor. The reveal though was a wild one.
It was phenomenal.
To then, I'm trying to think where to start. Like, I love that the Witch's Road came round into a circle.
Yes.
And then they're like, oh, well, what the fuck do we do now? Then realize, oh no, put the shoes on, trial. Obviously then that was the final trial. But then the reveal of it essentially all being Billy's creation.
The way they revealed it as well, with lines that we had of like, oh, you're so dramatic, of course this is how it's all happening. Again, it's that clever writing we were talking about in episode 7.
Yes.
Right, not to the same extreme, but we're going to write this stuff, you're going to perceive it one way, and then we're going to point back at it later and you're going to give it a whole new meaning, and it's going to be, because we were getting towards the end of episode 8 as we were watching it. I was like, they've done the big fight, the heroes won.
Like, what's next?
What is episode 9 going to be about here? And I was getting a little bit worried. And then we got the reveal and I was like, oh, they're going to stick the fucking landing.
I was like, surely episode 9's not, he's going to go find Tommy, and then there's going to be the Wanda hint that I kept thinking was maybe going to happen.
Yeah.
Instead, no, like you said, they turn around and were like, oh, so you know these things that you thought kind of were shown in one way, and you thought you'd started to learn our tricks? No, here's another reveal of like shit you missed. And then into the like showing Agatha's backstory, and we get to find out about her kid Nicholas, and the song. Do you know what's funny in my head of that? It's like we're watching the song, and I'm like, oh, she's taught him like a non-Witches Road song so he doesn't accidentally summon the Witches Road, and then it starts to click as like, wait, no, they're coming up with the song. Then you kind of figure out that was all her.
It was her first scam.
It was
Or
her
one of her
scam
biggest scams.
all along,
and it lived for so long. It
And
was
it's-
Agatha all along.
Yeah. And then as soon as like that clicked, I'm like, wait, and she uses that to get. Then my brain was like, they were never meant to go into the Witches Road.
No.
That's why the Mrs. Hark or whatever from across the street, Agatha was like, well, she was when she said on the road she wasn't supposed to die, or she wasn't meant to be there. I forget what she mentioned something like in that realm, because she never really was. The other witches would have attacked Agatha. She wouldn't have done anything and would have gone off scot-free. But instead, because of Billy,
insane,
threw Agatha through a loop, and she's just run with it and acted like this makes sense.
Also, Billy's full costume reveal.
Yes, very
the
sick.
Colours, they were vibrant.
Yes.
Vibrant colours.
They
vibrant blues and reds. Holy shit, what year are we living in?
The Lady Death stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Aubrey Plaza killed this role. So, like,
she did.
Pardon the irony of her killing the role of Death, but my god.
Like that reveal of with Agatha's son and like what actually happened there, and why she was killing the witches to kind of please Death, and they had a good, and then obviously, ultimately taking her son. Her trying to play Billy and was gonna like double cross him, but then he just says the right things to eke out of her the goodness that she then sacrificed herself.
Yeah, because I mean, we find out in episode 9 the reason she's given herself up in episode 8 is because she realised she would have given herself up for Nicholas in a heartbeat. It was so insanely because I was sitting on the sofa with Jenna, obviously watching it, and as Rio appears in the flashback, I'm like, shit, she's having a really late term miscarriage right now. That's why Death's appeared. I was like, oh, this is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And then, as crazy as it is to say this, it almost gets worse when she goes, all I can give you is time, and then disappears without elaborating. Because it's like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Like, that's harrowing.
Yeah, and like, almost makes you go, okay, I get her killing all them witches, because essentially she was exchanging them to have more time. And she missed one day of it, and it caught up.
Yep.
Yeah, that, like, the Aubrey Plaza nailed it. The moment when there's a moment where it's like Aubrey Plaza, you look at Billy and then he looks at her and she reveals the skull face. I was like, oh shit, okay. That caught me off guard so much.
But just across the board, acting, style choices, set design, wardrobe design, music accompaniment, cinematography, writing, it is across the board the best show we've had.
Yeah, I would agree.
Loki might have something kind of in like visual effects, but
I would say in like Loki season 2 definitely was obviously better than season 1, but like Loki dabbled with the sets. We saw the like live sets and how that helped having the TVA that they were in. Also, Loki was a character that we all enjoyed, and we enjoyed this character out that this Loki got to go on. So that's what made that show good. But this being like basically a character no one knows about, they went all in on practical, which is they learned from Loki. This helps so much. We're going to lean into it more. Like you say, the acting, the writing, everything was so much better. It's like Loki was that final kind of click of, oh, we think we know what works now.
Yeah.
To which then Agatha was the first show where they went all in on this new direction.
Do you know what it actually seems like? it seems like the executives saw Loki season 2 and went, "This is so much better than everything else we've been doing."
Why?
And someone went, "Yeah, we made a TV show."
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, just do more of that." So,
Yeah,
because Agatha is absolutely, no doubt about it, made as a TV show. Here
Yes.
is an episode. Here is an episode.
It's
And
almost
it
like
benefits from it so much.
Loki quietly fed in some of those TV things because they were like, this is going to help make it better. This is us pushing the limit of what is the Marvel TV thing. It worked so well to which someone's like, okay, like you say, an exec was like, oh, Loki was great. Why? And why did this do so well? And someone's like, because we did these things, which were a TV thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh.
It's going to sound crazy, but you've got to respect the medium you're working in.
Yes.
And for them early shows, they weren't doing that.
No.
They were going, we're going to make a film and cut it into this amount of episodes and then just charge people a movie ticket worth of money every month to watch it.
Yeah.
And now they've decided to actually make TV shows. They're respecting the medium, they're writing it for TV, and it's paying off in quality and everything.
Yeah, no, for sure. Do we think... I don't think we get like an Agatha 2.
No, we don't.
I think this WandaVision into Agatha is now going to go into maybe a Billy.
No, it's going into Vision.
You think it's going to go into Vision Quest?
Yeah, I don't think we'll get anything in between. So we see the rebirth of Tommy.
Oh, yeah, the kid drowning who is not got any family.
So he does have a family technically. Okay. What Billy is picking up on is how terrible that family is.
Got you.
Which, based on my limited understanding, and it is limited, I will double check for following episodes, is pretty accurate to what Tommy gets. He gets a pretty rough end of the stick.
I was going to ask if this is how it kind of went down in the comics for it.
Not in this way, as far as I know. But the idea that, like, you have Billy Kaplan, you have Tommy Shepherd, and the Shepherds are not nice people once that happens. And that's where Tommy's going to be reborn into.
Got you.
We know Agatha was a ghost.
Yes.
So I don't know if this is going to last or if we're going to get kind of like a back to forward kind of bit where Wanda comes back as a result of... Like, I can see Vision Quest reuniting Vision, Speed, and Wiccan. And then there being maybe a film or another show that allows them to go and get Wanda, and then you have the family back together.
Okay, yeah.
And then I don't know if that ends with Agatha being resurrected by Wanda and Billy.
As like a thank you.
And then she trains Wanda, or then she just fucks off and does her own thing. I don't know how they might do that. Maybe Agatha just is a ghost now, which I think adds a nice...
It could also be once Billy gets Tommy, and if, like you say, it's Vision, and then maybe at the end it's like that then lets her soul just go. She don't have to be trapped as a ghost. And
maybe just the process of reuniting this family helps her feel comfortable to finally go and see Nicholas in the afterlife. Yeah. Whatever.
Do we think we get Lady Death going forwards in other things?
I really don't know. The beauty of Death is, in a comic, Death just takes whatever form it wants. So you can absolutely just recast Death for every project and go, right, look at this project and Death's role in it. Who do we think would be the best for that? And just get whoever the fuck you want. However, we do also need to accept that the layman will struggle with that.
Yeah.
And Aubrey Plaza's brilliant. And there is a lot of comedy in a potential Ryan Reynolds return as Deadpool, of him trying to marry Death.
That would be
like, there's a lot of comedy to be had there.
I'd love if it's just, I don't know, there's some situation with like the X-Men stuff, and we get to see like Deadpool's like chilling, having a good life again now. He's settled like with Wolverine, all that. Like he's getting to just chill, and like he dies, and then we get a clip of like Lady Death, and he's just like, no, please, not now. I'm actually having a good life now. But I mean, I think they nailed it with a character that no one really knew anything about, and a lot of people going into this were like, oh, why are we getting this show? I don't care about this.
It's so funny retroactively to look back at all the people like, no one asked for this. This stuff's going to be arse.
Even we were like, the trailer looks interesting. We don't know if this is going to be any good, and it's turned out amazing.
This show is absolutely the kind of yardstick that proves, yes, you should listen to your consumers, but they don't know everything. They don't even know what they want sometimes, because even if you would have pitched this to me, I probably would have been like, can I just get Spider-Man? Like, I would have.
And also, you got to look at it. It's come at a point where, let's be honest, the MCU is at probably its lowest in fan appreciation.
Yeah.
And you're throwing a character that's not like a big name, and it's a TV show after all these other shows have kind of been subpar since WandaVision, other than Loki season 2 did okay. Like, you're asking a lot of the fans to actually give a shit, and they were like, we don't care, we're still going to run this, and they've nailed it. I think, if anything, this was just like, and this is getting a lot of good press of like this. I've heard a lot of people going, oh, this is way better than I expected it to be. I put on the first episode I was in, like, loads of people have been shocked by it.
People who took a chance on this have been greatly rewarded.
But like, and they're talking about it, which is like exactly what Marvel needs, MCU needs at the moment, because it needs this confidence regain that people are now going to be like, I'll be honest, going into obviously Daredevil, I was like, I'm going to like Daredevil. We're pretty confident it's going to be solid. Now I'm like, oh, they're going to nail Daredevil. I'm so sure of it. Yeah. And like, I think that being the next show, like big name show, is going to help Disney Plus a lot to regain those MCU viewers.
Absolutely.
And I mean, going forward, it helps just in general for the whole MCU.
While they're still putting out a lot of content, they have slowed down. I know it doesn't feel like it, and we'll get into the news a little bit later, but like we've got like 9 projects coming out next year, which is still a lot. We've got to remember, at one point, that we were looking at like a film every other month and 4 or 5 TV shows.
Oh yeah, there was like...
We were looking at like 12 to 16 projects some years. They've scaled back a lot. They are, as much as you might not think it, putting quality over quantity. I would say, again, it might not look like it. We're on a bit of a hot streak at the minute.
Yeah.
I think we let the good times roll. I think we try not to get too bogged down about what's coming. Is it going to be good? I think this show should be kind of a positive canary in the coal mine, if you will, of they've addressed the issues. Let's not kind of... You should always try and give constructive criticism, but it feels like one of them times where actually they've managed to clear their way through a lot of the noise and work out what they need to do. Let's simmer down for a little while and see if they can keep this heading. And if they do keep the heading, we can kind of go, okay, continue. I think it's kind of become, we need to make noise about every single thing that happens.
Yeah.
And as a result, I feel like for a long time, when they were trying to work out what the fans wanted, it was so much noise. They were like, we have not got a clue what you guys want.
Now I'm thinking about it, it's almost like Echo was like the test, because they were given full free reign to do whatever they wanted. They were like, oh, Loki's worked better season 2. This seems to have been liked. Agatha's now kind of lent into sort of the things that Echo sort of laid. If they can nail it with Daredevil, I think that's the final kind of test, because that's taking it to a character that a lot of people love. They also all hold the Netflix shows in quite high regard.
If they can get a positive internet reaction to Daredevil Born Again, when it's not Netflix Daredevil, they're going to be doing just fine.
They are shooting for people to watch that and go, oh, we've got Netflix Daredevil back. Like they've managed to this is that you want as much as it's like people talking about their competitor, they want people to be saying, "Oh, this is Netflix Daredevil,"
Absolutely.
and that's gonna just nail it for them. So we'll have to wait and see. Like you say, they've had a couple of good things now. Can they prove it with a big show? And then if so, we're in the right direction.
I'm gonna say it now before we move on. Agatha All Along had better get some Emmy nominations. And I'm not talking the ones you'd expect of like set design and stuff and costume design, which like Marvel kind of shows would always be in the realm of getting nominated for, like Loki was and stuff. I'm talking Patti LuPone for episode 7.
Yes.
Best get a fucking Emmy nomination. Some of the writing should definitely be in
Yep.
consideration.
Agreed.
Some of the directing better be in consideration. I need the Emmys to recognize this show because that will make it a lot easier for Marvel to go to Disney. Because let's be honest, Disney Plus doesn't care what Marvel actually make. But if Marvel makes Emmy-winning stuff, they're gonna give them a little bit more
slack
a
on
little
the
bit more
lead.
leash. Yeah. Exactly. So go get them Emmy nominations. Doesn't matter if they win or lose them. Obviously, I want them to win. But getting them Emmy nominations is a big old, don't worry, Papa Disney. We know what we're doing. We can take this from here. And
I agree.
anyone who's like working on a project on the same kind of workflow that Agatha was on can then go, okay, we're doing the right thing here. We know what we're doing. Relax.
I agree.
It's just going to end up being worth it.
Patty getting a nomination would be great. I think definitely it needs to get a nomination for writing for one or two. Like, there's a couple of episodes there that have definitely deserve it. And like you say, I agree. I think they need that to almost be like, look, this new direction, we're now getting Emmy nominations. We figured it out. Keep trusting us with your money, Disney, while also staying back the fuck off. So yeah, it's just time will tell now.
Let's be honest, as much as Disney are going to posture at times, Marvel was one of the greatest investments Disney ever made. They bought it for $5 billion. It's worth $50 billion now. And fuck knows just the Marvel branding year-on-year revenue, even on badges. Like, it's doing just fine, but a couple of Emmy nominations would really allow the talented people who write this stuff to just write it without having to worry too much, and that is always what we want.
Yeah, agreed.
Talking of shows that should probably end up getting a fuck ton of Emmy nominations.
Yeah. Penguin,
episode 6. I think I'm gonna put this here, and it won't make a lot of sense in the individual segment if you're watching this, but in context of this entire episode. We may have exited what is perceived as the golden era of comic book movies. I'm not saying we definitely have, because I'm very confident about the next few years with Superman and Spider-Man 4 and stuff like that and what comes next. But right now it feels like we've exited that era.
Yeah.
I would argue comic book TV has never been stronger than it is right now.
Oh,
Agatha, Penguin, Creature Commandos looks phenomenal.
I would agree. I think the last time that comic book TV looked this good was Netflix Daredevil and Punisher, but then that was very short-lived because then they
Iron Fist.
they went for the grab and missed, unfortunately. They were close, but they missed in places and that hurt them. Also, it's Netflix, so they quickly went, bye, we're done with you.
That is actually one of the few ones I won't put too much on Netflix. I think Disney went, oh, you've missed a single step there, and we're doing really good over here because Avengers has just come out and that made a fuck ton of money. So we want them characters back now.
And they'll also have known that Disney Plus probably back then was in the early stages.
Background, yeah.
But yeah, now I would say that was just Marvel was like the only strong thing at the time. Now we are, like you say, on all fronts. We've got DC, we've got Marvel, we've got animated DC. Even some of the animated Marvel stuff has been solid. Like, we're in a good spot for TV, and I do think it is only going to get better.
Absolutely. So, Penguin episode 6.
We had a little bit of a time jump, like a couple of days to a
Yeah,
week, I want to
it
say.
seems like it might have. I would say maybe a little bit more than that, just because the amount of mushrooms they seem to have. But I don't know how fast you would expect mushrooms to grow.
I think mushrooms, I would say a week roughly.
Anyway, there was a
Thereabouts.
little time jump.
Yeah.
They've got their mushroom bliss business off the ground.
Hmm.
It's very interesting to see Penguin, the Overlord, not like in the negative way it will become, but start to rise, where he's not just managing his shop and his guys now like he was for the Falcons. He is at the top of his own food chain. Yes, he's like still concerned about the Gigantes
Yep.
and the
The
Maronis,
Maronis. Yeah.
but he's like, I don't have a boss now. I am my
Yes.
own boss.
Yes.
And it's really interesting to see how that's working. And he's coming across kind of how I've always envisioned a Penguin type character, with this kind of, he's, you know what he is? This is the best way I can describe it. We all know this guy who would make a really inappropriate, offensive, rude, horrific joke, but it's only a joke if people don't like the statement. If someone agrees with the statement, he was being serious.
I get you.
He kind of does that on like a criminal scale. He's like, I'm gonna kill you and steal all your criminal enterprises, and then they laugh and he laughs. But if they take it as a threat, he's like, yeah, I fucking told you I'm coming for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's how he operates. And now that he's got a bit more power, we're starting to see that he's doing less of the cowering and trying to not be a threat to anyone, and more of the posturing of, I am fearsome and I cannot be beaten, so you should fall in line.
He has seen this version apparently, like he's played the game almost perfectly, in the sense that he's lived his time kind of at that mid street level. Like he's not the guy running the drugs. He's the guy like actually like selling them or whatever. He's the guy
He's the
overseeing that.
area manager.
Yeah. And like he's got his bosses and he's kind of watched them fight amongst themselves and kind of he's just bounced around at that mid level. To he's got the big bosses are now weak, injured, partly through things he's done and moves he's made, partly from infighting, and like he's now played his influence of, we're all at mid level. I have an opportunity for us all to be in charge and we don't need to be overseen by some big boss. And he's playing those cards. And we know
he's playing the working man.
Yeah, he's playing the working class. And we know all politicians, whether they're for the working class or not, are politicians and are scummy. He's playing that, and we know the Penguin is going to go, oh, I've got you all under control now. I'm the one in charge. That's his goal.
He's going to make them all feel like equals. He's going to eliminate the competition. He will be the only one there. He'll be the only employment opportunity. And then all of a sudden, oh no, there's a hierarchy here.
Yeah,
I'm going to be rich, and you guys do okay.
It'll go. He's playing, like you say, he's playing at the moment. We're all equal footing. We're in this together. Together, we can control this, and we don't need the big bosses. As soon as the big boys are gone, there's always a new big fish. He's suddenly the one that's in charge of all the drugs and the only drugs. He's controlling everything.
We saw that exact play when he gave out all of the free samples.
Yes.
He was like, we're not making any money tonight. He did a marketing campaign.
Yeah,
is what he did. He went out because the people he was like subcontracting the selling of the drugs to were getting killed by the Maronis and the Gigantes. So he went, we're going to make this drug so damn irresistible that these gangs are not going to be worried that they might lose a guy, because the amount of money to be made there, they have to be involved.
Well, and it's also that thing of like, you put with a drug, you put the demand out there, get people hooked. Every area of Gotham's gonna be like wanting to try and buy it. They're gonna be dumb to not be selling it, and like it's suddenly that demand's overwhelming. Like, well, we kind of have to put up with selling this because.
Yeah. And also, like logistically speaking, we're going to get into the economics of drug dealing here. Once everyone's hooked on this drug, and that's how the gangs are making their money, he can stop any kind of gang on gang violence, which he said he wants to do. He wants to be the guy that's respected by the community because he's keeping them safe in a weird way. If the Triads and the Irish gang aren't fighting anymore because they get all their money from drugs, so if they start fighting and causing trouble in the streets, go sort it out, otherwise you're not getting your drugs, and then that's their money gone.
Yeah.
That's their legs cut out from underneath them. So what do? They have to fall in line. They get to pretend they're their own gang still, but he knows he's in charge.
And we also this episode got to see him start to play the bigger fish, and he was going to the politician level people and kind of pushing them, trying to get the people under his in his palm at that level because he knows that's the next step. He's covered himself underneath. He's getting rid of the two that are above him, and now he needs the political people on his corner. So to put
it in a sports term, that I'll understand. They'll do one that you might understand. He's been sitting as bench quarterback for a few years behind Carmine. He's learnt the playbook. He's ready to play.
Yeah.
Or F1, he's been sitting as the second driver behind Lewis Hamilton. He now knows what Lewis Hamilton does to win. He's going to go to another team and win.
Yeah,
it's the exact. He's sat, he studies, he's learned. He's watched Carmine extort all these fuckers. He knows where the bodies are buried. And we literally saw it. Like you said, he was like, I already paid Carmine. He's like, yeah, you didn't pay me.
Yeah. He's like, just because you got rid of... he's not the only person that knows what you did. I have all that information too. It was... Yeah, it's very interesting seeing it. Also, did you like how it starts with Vic on a bike through the tunnels? In my head, I was like, Batman on a bike in the tunnels?
It would have been so fucking funny, man. And they're expanding throughout the tunnels. I'm not 100% convinced we're not going to get...
In the film, definitely in Batman 2, there's going to be something with these tunnels and Batman dealing with stuff.
It's got to be, right?
Or it's going to, he knows about it, but he hasn't got time to deal with drug runners and tunnels. He knows they're using them. There's going to be something there, for sure. I mean... Vic kind of going the direction we thought he was, which was, I was like, I think Squid's going to be an issue and try and sell him out. You were like, oh no, he's going to hire him. Kind of went both ways in a way. He tried
to do everything he could to not have to do what he did.
Yeah, he tried. He didn't want to bother Oz with it, so then he tried using his own initiative and was like, oh, I'll pay this guy off. But that didn't work. So then he was like, then he starts to panic, and we got the point where he crosses that line again into more gangster Vic. And oh my god, the neck shot,
brutal.
That death scene was pretty bad for a TV show. That was they did not hold back punches on that.
They did not want to glamorize it at all. No. They were very much like, Vic's never killed someone before. He kind of fucked this up. This guy's going to bleed out slowly, and he's going to be there watching it, regretting every second of it.
Yeah, they really did. Yeah, like you said, they did it in a way to make us realize, sit with it like Vic is, and watching him freak out a bit. I like though that then he's obviously kind of what the fuck have I done? Oz is coaches him.
You did what you had to do, yeah.
Yeah, you did what you had to do. You did a good job. Take the night. Good job on that. You handled your own business. And don't in the situation, yeah, he did the right thing. He was this Squid guy, we know is a bit of a dick, was threatening to sell him out. He did what had to be done in the gangster world. The problem is now Vic's gonna get fucking screwed over. Because meanwhile, Oz has been setting up his drug organization, and you've got the two big fish teaming up together. Sophia being a dummy mummy.
That was a fucking wild scene.
I was not expecting it, but it made total sense for that doctor or that therapist.
But also, it makes complete sense, full stop. I mean, we will not get into the psychoanalysis of kinks people have based on trauma, but it's not a surprise that someone who has been physically and mentally abused by powerful men in her life feels the need to restrain men.
Yeah.
Doesn't take an actual PhD to see why that makes sense. But then for her to go into the no. To then go into the kitchen with Maroni cooking, her like, oh, I didn't expect you to be a cook, and he's like, I wanted my noni or whoever it was wanted the recipe to live on through me, so I'll teach you. These two are going to backstab each other.
Oh, 100%. Did you not know? So straight away, like he's cooking, and in my head, I'm like, is he poisonous? Like, she's like, you're not supposed to be out. Like for home arrest, you shouldn't be out wandering around. Like, could get caught or whatever. Being a criminal. He puts the meals down. He's explained this story of where it's come from or whatever. She chows down, and he's just like staring at her, not eating. I was like, he's fucking poisoned it. He's not eating. Like, this is like, she's eaten before him. This is like typical gangster behavior. And then I'm like, when he eventually eats, I'm like, oh no, what we just saw was him realizing she has far too much trust for him.
See, I think you can view this a couple of different ways, and that is actually the beauty of the scene. You are absolutely right in reading it your way, but I also view it as her kind of going, I don't see you as a threat. I don't think you have the balls to do it. Kind of not being clueless about the danger, but kind of big dogging it in the sense of, you don't have the balls. I'm not concerned.
I get that. I think it's more she's hooked on Oz screwed her over.
Big time.
She
Big
wants to
being up
get
on
back.
it.
She's clouded by that she thinks, okay, Maroni's on my side. We've got the same enemy. I can focus on Oz because we've kind of teamed up. And she's let her guard down a bit too much. Because just the way that he watched her, I was like, that is a criminal who's realized, I could have poisoned this and you would be dead. And you didn't even like wait to see if I ate it or not. Like, it was just that, oh, you've got no guard up. And I do think he is going to backstab her at his first chance.
In all fairness to her, the pasta looked really good.
It looked like it slapped, and apparently was great with yogurt in
it. What I will say as well, on top of that, watching Sophia develop as a gangster because she was forced to. She didn't want to be a part of this life, really. It's not like she was begging her father to be a part of the organisation and he kept shutting her down. He punished her for discovering something she shouldn't have discovered, and now she's come out and she's fallen down this pipeline. To then go and find our prostitute friend.
Oh yeah, Oz's girlfriend.
I genuinely didn't think for a second she was going to kill her until she admitted she was lying and said where Oz was. So I was genuine. I was like, she's not going to kill her. It's absolutely fine. And then when she got up and left without killing her and said, oh, he's here, I was like, oh, now she's going to turn around and kill her. She's going to have some kind of weird moral code that she's not going to hurt anyone unless they wrong her. So by lying to her, you've wronged. Like, I genuinely thought that was what was going to happen.
I think in my head I was like, oh, she's gonna kill her at first. And then when she did the whole reveal of, did Oz ever tell you that I wasn't the hangman? And he knew, and played that card, I was like, oh, she's turning her against Oz. In like a smart way. And I was like, she's not gonna kill her now. And when she was leaving, in my head I'm like, either she's gonna essentially leave, wait to find out if she contacts Oz.
Yeah.
Or then she told her, and I was like, oh, now she's just essentially got them under her if she ever needs them. Whether they want to acknowledge that or not, she knows she has control over them a bit now. Which.
Now, on to obviously the cliffhanger at the end. The power finally comes back on. Oz's mum and Vic do some dancing because the music's back on. A gorgeous scene, by the way.
Yeah, music's blaring, so you can't hear anything.
And the episode ends with Sophia lurking in the entryway with a pipe in her hand.
I would have said crowbar because I imagine she pried the door open. Like you hear at
Oh,
one point, Vic heard like a
creak.
well, he heard like a bump and something drop, but then Oz's mum wanted to dance, so he was like re-distracted. Like there's a split moment you hear it, and it was obviously her prying the door open.
So maybe this is copium or belief in a person that doesn't exist's moral judgment. And maybe I'll just decide to be bitchy about it because I've decided this is what makes the most sense. I don't think the Sophia Gigante we have been shown in this show is capable of killing Oz's mum when all of the shit that went wrong in her life started when her mother was killed. She might fuck Vic up. I don't think she has it in her to kill Oz's mum.
Okay.
Not right now, anyway. I'm not saying she won't leave, develop further, and come back. But if the next episode starts with her just caving in Oz's mum's skull, I don't think that makes sense for the character.
So I don't think she kills his mum right now. I do see a world where she does kill his mum.
It's possible if they develop the character a bit more, but right now it would make zero sense in my opinion.
In my head, I'm like, okay, Sophia's trying to get to Oz. She's got this hatred for him right now. She's just finally found the one, like, discovered by accident. He has a mum still. Someone he cares about. It's how you press someone. I think what's going to happen is she's going to beat the shit out of Vic, take the mum, essentially kidnap her, essentially be like, tell Oz, like, Vic, you can tell Oz what I've done. Oz is going to come back and be like, you fucked up, you didn't protect my mum. Either kill Vic or get him as close to death as possible by, like, in his reaction. That kind of Vic suddenly sees, oh, this guy is like an evil person. And then in whatever confrontation between Oz and Sophia, his mum dies. Whether
See, now that I can absolutely see. I don't, with the way Sophia has been shown so far, with what we know about her, the way she operates, for her to, in cold blood, murder his mother right now makes zero sense.
It depends. My only thing would be like if something happens where she accidentally kills the mum right now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So not in cold blood then. If it's an accident, it's
True,
not cold blood.
yeah.
This is what I'm saying. I'm not saying there won't be a fuck up that leads to her death, but if he wanted to kill someone to hurt Oz, he kills the prostitute. Oh, sorry, she kills the prostitute. If it was Ozzy's dad, Ozzy's brother, she kills them. It is the correlation between this all going wrong because her dad killed her mum that will stop her killing Ozzy's mum, I think. Deliberately.
I wonder, because we've kind of got to view this as like, for Batman 2, Penguin's going to still be around, most likely.
I'd be amazed if he's not.
Sophia and Maroni guy, Sal, probably aren't going to be around.
I actually don't know.
In my opinion. So the way I see this going is them two are going to die, whether they infight or there's a bit of Invi and a bit of Oz. Possible situation here. Maroni was like focused on trying to find someone he cares about.
Oh, Maroni will definitely kill Oz's mum.
If Sophia takes Oz's mum back, he finds out. They then have a disagreement. He kills Sophia, then threatens Oz's mum. Or like there's some conflict between them two over what to do with Oz's mum that causes one of them
very
to...
possible.
Maybe Sophia's like, okay, you're trying to fuck up my whole plan here. Kills him, maybe. And then, yeah, there's some conflict there. I think Sophia and Maroni die because I think if Sophia dies, therapist guy then kind of goes off the deep end. This
Very
person he's
possible.
become obsessed with and in love with.
Once again, I do not think enough people are talking about this fucking therapist.
I think it sends him off the deep end, and the whole drug trade took away this person that he was fixing and he loved, and then he's like, I'm going to ruin everyone's world, and then he starts fucking around with a drug and becomes Scarecrow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Regardless,
either way, I think Vic's screwed.
If Vic makes it
I'm
out of
so
the show
worried.
alive, I'm amazed.
Yeah, either Vic comes out of this a completely different man, or Vic is unfortunately. I mean, best case scenario is somehow Oz lets him live, but he just leaves, and he realizes this isn't a place he can be.
Vic's the most interesting to me because he's completely brand new and playing such an integral role to the story, which means you can do whatever you want with him. There's no expectation. There's no fans getting pissy because you broke law. If they wanted, they could make Vic Robin.
Batman discovers him in the tunnels.
He's a brand new Robin, cool. But like, it absolutely could be a case of like a little bit inspiration of Jason Todd's growing up in Crime Alley. Like a little bit of inspiration is go, I want to make my own Robin. And it gets rid of the issue of how do you make Dick Grayson work, how do you make Jason Todd work, how do you make so and so work for our current Batman. Like that is an I don't think that's what's going to happen, but that's an example of like the wide range of shit that you can do, because it's completely plausible for Vic to get the shit kicked out of him by Sophia, the shit kicked out of him by Penguin,
thrown and to just the side by Penguin.
Yeah, left for dead and found by the Batman, or he finds the Batman.
Yeah,
and he takes the opportunity. He also lost his parents. He's an orphan. We know how Batman feels about orphan boys.
Yeah. What it could be like beaten up by Oz, left to die, escapes into the tunnels, stumbles into the Batcave.
Yeah, like there is a non-zero opportunity that Vic is Robin.
That is true. That would be a twist.
It would be a phenomenal decision for this version of Batman. But yeah, I'm very curious to see where the rest of the series goes.
So many different turns, and I think
so many balls in the air.
It's wild that we're still kind of waiting to see this evil Penguin that we're kind of promised is going to happen. Which I've
got a feeling the result of episode 7 is going to kick us into gear.
I have a feeling things are going to get very intense very fast. So yeah.
Rightio. On to Venom: The Last Dance.
I did not manage to get to go see this in time, unfortunately. I don't know. Maybe not, unfortunately.
No, see, I have complicated feelings about this film.
Okay. That's better than Madam Web.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Stronger start than Madam Web.
I think if you go to this film expecting, and I know we've said this a million times, comic book movies isn't a genre, and we need to stop treating it like a genre. However, it is treated like a genre. So if you go into this expecting a comic book movie, whatever your idea of that genre is in your head, I think you're going to come out going, this is a bad film.
Okay.
Or a really bad film, even.
Oh, okay.
If you go into this not knowing what genre you're expecting, I think you're going to have a good time.
Okay.
The story is a mess.
In classic Sony fashion.
Yes. There is very little exposition. It doesn't make a lot of sense. They kind of break their own rules on a number of occasions.
So, yep, Sony to a T.
On the flip side of it, Tom Hardy, as always, is fucking phenomenal. Both as Eddie and Venom. This kind of B-plot he goes on with a hippie family he bumps into on his journey is genuinely heartwarming. There's a lot there's a lot of this film that I really adore. The best way I think I can put it is they managed to capture the difficult parts of a comic book story really well. But the bits that you would think would be easier, like the action storyline and the overarching important story, was where it seemed to go wrong.
Do you think that is because Tom Hardy has proven he has been pretty solid as his role in Venom, understands the character, and we enjoy him as Venom, that like the stuff you've talked about with the heartwarming, like he is able to sell very well. That
Tom Hardy absolutely acts up the script.
So if you were to take the stuff that obviously is all the other stuff, which is clearly Sony, I'm presuming we're setting up future films as well.
Yes.
It's just their usual pile of mess that they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah. So, the basic plot starts off in a rocky area because it's trying to resolve the whole, at the end of Venom 2, he goes to a different universe and then he comes back to his universe. So, the first kind of 5 minutes in that regard are a fucking mess that I still don't fully understand.
Well, isn't it them trying to retroactively take back what they did in No Way Home or whatever, Far From Home?
No, not really.
Oh.
It just kind of re-shows him getting teleported back to his universe in a weird way.
Oh.
It's weird.
Okay.
He's in Mexico. He's on the run for what happened at the end of Venom 2.
Right.
And he's like, I know a guy in New York. Let's get to New York, clear our name, and start our life. That's his plan. I don't know why we bother with that.
Okay.
I get that at the start, it seems to just be to get him moving.
Uh-huh.
But it doesn't feel like they needed to do that.
Fair.
So the entire idea is Null is in an alien prison created by the symbiotes.
Uh-huh.
They went, yeah, you're our creator, but you're a dick. We're locking you in prison.
Right, okay.
Yeah?
Yep.
The key to the prison is a codex. A codex is created when a symbiote and its host fully merge, which happens when the host dies and is revived by the symbiote.
Okay.
Which is what happened at the end of Venom 1, when he dies and then Venom saves him.
Oh, yeah.
So that creates a codex.
Okay.
I don't know how it's taken Null so long to send his goons after the codex. That seems a bit strange.
Maybe you didn't know it was made yet?
That doesn't seem to make sense, and I'll explain why in a minute. What I will say is, although these films have taken place over 7 years for us and Tom Hardy is clearly older, it seems to have only taken place in canon in about a year.
Oh.
Which does kind of make sense because of how chaotic it's been.
Yeah.
And it actually does kind of cover up how much Tom Hardy's aged, because you're like, you know what? If I had this alien living inside my body, I would probably have gone a bit grey from stress in a year as well.
Yeah, I mean, they could have just took a bit of hair down.
So we've got these xenophages. They're basically massive alien dog things.
Right. Classic.
And their job is to hunt down the codex and return it to Null.
Got you.
And this is why I struggle to believe it's taken a year. Because anytime Venom is in full form, it basically sends off like a homing beacon to these xenophages.
Oh.
So they are blind apart from to the codex. So when the codex is hidden, i.e. they're in eddy form, the thing can't see anything.
Okay.
So, bearing in mind he died at the end of Venom 1,
Uh-huh.
and then we had an entire film, I don't know how the xenophages have only just become a problem.
My only thing to that would be at the start of the second film, wasn't he kind of hiding Venom?
Yeah, but he still used Venom a fuck ton throughout the film.
True. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. But if you're saying this timeline is like a year, that could have been a few weeks. Like,
maybe I don't quite see it.
I think, yeah, the timelines are getting a bit messy already.
And it is a bit nitpicky, but when the story is the mess that it is, yeah. So then we also had, do you remember the police officer from the first two films who was deaf? Played by the Liverpudlian British actor.
Vaguely.
Something Mulligan, or it might be the character was Mulligan. Venom, The Last Dance, cast. Stephen Graham.
Oh, yeah.
Is the actor.
Yeah.
Yeah? So, he is who Eddie's accused of murdering at the end of 2. Obviously, he didn't kill him. It's just that's the way it looked.
Mm-hmm.
He's not dead.
Classic.
A secret government facility, Area 55, which is hidden underneath Area 51.
Is it 4 floors down, by any chance?
It is directly below. Flies in his dead body, and they put a symbiote in it.
Okay.
And that creates, although he's not called that,
Toxin. Yeah.
Who's kind of this like czar for the government, like warning of the fact that Null is coming and he's looking for a codex.
Okay.
What I don't understand is how when Graham is dying and Toxin is created, clearly that kind of resurrected him. So how is there not a codex there?
Yeah. That's exactly
I might have just missed something, but that seems weird to me.
I suppose it depends if he fully died.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I don't know if they just kept him in like a cryogenic stable-ish condition.
Yeah.
And Toxin just like healed him rather than revived him.
I get you, yeah.
But again, it's not very well explained.
Sony.
We've got scientists working in the lab and military working in the lab.
Mm-hmm.
So they play the very generic, all scientists just want to learn, all military just want to fight. Mm-hmm. I don't inherently have an issue with that. Yeah, it's tropey, but it's a trope that does work. Mm. The scientist is a scientist because when she was young, her brother died by getting struck by lightning while they were running on the beach together. And her brother wanted to be a scientist. As part of that lightning strike, she lost control of her arm because they were holding hands when he got struck by lightning.
Sounds like she should have been a meteorologist, not a scientist.
Well, no, like what she's working on, like he wanted to go to space and work with aliens. So that's how she got into this.
Okay.
And then there's another scientist who likes to wear Christmas trees as like badges. It feels like they had great ideas for these characters, but they were just nods to the comic book and not really expanded upon.
Okay.
Like genuinely. Like her name is no, it's the actress. What's the character name here? Sadie Christmas. Let me Google Sadie Christmas quickly and see if I'm missing something here. Because I shit you not, this is the kind of level of information we were getting. No, there's like nothing. So they were building her up as if, like, I was sat there as someone who does know a lot of obscure comic characters, or be like, they built her up, and I'm like, this is clearly an obscure character I don't know. I'll Google them later.
Yeah.
But there was never anything substantial there. And they've found a lot of symbiotes, and they're studying them. And we've got, like, all of the colours.
Ah.
And, like, cool, we're going to get, like a symbiote team-up. Sweet. Eddie, the entire time, is just trying to get to New York. He gets attacked. Venom explains about Null and xenophages so that Eddie knows what the fuck's going on. But Eddie's entire plan is still, okay, let's just get to New York and go from there. Because he doesn't have a fucking clue what he's dealing with. Then they start getting chased by the military once the military know what. They're looking for Eddie as well because they know he has a symbiote and he's a fugitive.
Mm-hmm.
They pick him up on some facial imagery and they go try and get him. As a result, Venom comes out, which lights up the codex. So the Xenophage arrives and decimates a bunch of people.
Right.
As a result, Venom jumps off of Eddie to try and keep Eddie safe, and so the codex disappears.
Got you.
But that obviously leaves Eddie exposed, and they're trying to arrest him. So at one point, Eddie shoots a military dude in the head, which is the first time Eddie has actually taken a life, I believe.
Oh.
Which again kind of gets built up for a second. It gets like a moment of like, oh my god, what have I done? That very quickly gets brushed over.
Okay.
It genuinely feels like they shot this film in about 9 different ways, and random bits were left in for a different version, which just muddies it a lot.
I mean, it just sounds like the typical Sony mess of not really knowing what they're doing.
Do you remember when The Flash came out and I was like, the core of this film has a really good idea that they just refuse to deliver on?
Yes.
I feel a similar way.
Which comes back to writing.
Yeah.
Writing or writers having their hands tied by some things that Sony want in and not.
I genuinely do not think there is many, if any, other actors on planet Earth that could have acted this script up enough to make this actually enjoyable, because it was. Don't get me wrong, I know I'm ragging on things I'm sat here. While I was sat there watching it, I did enjoy it. Yeah, I was like, that's a bit weird, that doesn't make any sense. But I was still overall enjoying it. It was an enjoyable film to watch. This trilogy very much exists, like I was saying in our preview of it, as that trilogy that, yeah, you watching it like, it's not good, but like, fuck, isn't it fun? Yeah, they're big, gooey aliens that can do weird shit, kicking ass and going crazy. They make a big deal later on for like the final battle of the other symbiotes being freed and like jumping on random scientists.
Right.
But they don't elaborate on that.
It's gonna come down the line.
No, they all die.
Oh.
Apart from one. Which is... I did recognise the design. I think it's Lasher, but it might have been Scream. I can't remember which. And that symbiote bonds with the doctor lady whose arm doesn't work.
Alright, yeah.
And that symbiote has like super speed, and it like jolts her arm back into work. I don't know if it's just in symbiote form or full stop, but her arm works again. So I don't know if they're setting up like Lasher films. Again, it feels like they had... Imagine they've written, because like no film is just like one story that would be done. You've got subplots, you've got B plots, C plots, etc. It feels like they had 10 plots and they were like, that's too many, we need to cut some of these. And they ended up cutting most of them, but they couldn't cut it completely, so they had to cut around it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like there was supposed to be a bigger plot around both of the scientists, the general, this family we interacted with, and the other symbiotes. And we just get bits and pieces of all of them that never gets paid off.
Do you not
and
think that's just
the
Sony,
weirdest thing, Sony made the Amazing Spider-Man movies. And they cast, I forget the actor's name, to play Lizard in the first one. He's in this film. Everyone assumed he was playing Lizard because of the way Sony have done stuff. He wasn't. He was just a random hippie dad for the hippie family.
I mean, I'm not even surprised from Sony anymore.
I know I'm sitting here and I'm just pointing out all these insane, batshit weird decisions. The film was fun.
It sounds like what I expected it to be, which is it's going to be a a good end. It's a good end for Eddie, like Tom Hardy's Venom, and that little trilogy. But because Sony wants it to fit into this bigger Sonyverse that is just a mess at the moment, it causes this to be messy.
Do you know what I genuinely think? And this is going to be hilarious, bearing in mind that I've just said it's not as unhinged as it sounds. Would you like to know the most unhinged scene?
Oh no.
So they make it to Vegas.
Right.
And they have like $20.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to a casino to try and gamble and make some more money to try and get to New York. So after beating the shit out of a random dude to steal his suit, who, in all fairness, it turns out the guy in the suit was Tom Hardy's stunt double, which I did quite like when I found that out. So they go in. Venom instantly becomes a gambling addict. He's like, no, I watched Rain Man. I know how to gamble now. He goes over to a slot machine and just cranks it. And he's like, Eddie, I need more money. I'm out of money. Then they hear a massive cheer because someone's just won the jackpot.
Mm.
And it's Mrs. Chen. Yes. So then Mrs. Chen goes, oh, I've been here gambling all week. I've made so much money. They've given me a penthouse. Which is a thing. If you're gambling like a lot of money in Las Vegas, they will comp you basically anything. She's like, I've got an insane room. Come up with me to clean yourself up. And you know what? Apart from the fact that Miss Chen magically being there at the right time happened, Eddie going, you know what? A shower sounds amazing. Makes complete sense right now. He's had a really rough 24 hours. So they go up to the room, and Mrs. Chen has a jukebox in the room. She starts playing some music. She's like, oh, I love to dance. They know that a Xenophage is chasing them, and anytime they go full Venom form, it can see them, no matter how far away they are.
Oh, no.
For some reason, Eddie agrees to let Venom come out to do a dance with Mrs. Chen.
Right.
And this directly leads to the Xenophage wreaking havoc in Las Vegas. And once again, the government have tracked them down again, which leads to them being captured to go to the super secret facility. And while they're at the super secret facility, the hippie family happen to arrive because the reason the hippie family are on their trip is Area 51 is being decommissioned and destroyed. So the hippie dude who loves aliens wants to go down and see Area 51 before it's destroyed.
It sounds like the typical Sony mess.
Which means this hippie family almost gets killed by a Xenophage because they've snuck into Area 51 before it gets destroyed, just as the fight erupts from underneath the ground of Area 55.
I mean, this just sounds like all the other Sony messes, story-wise.
Insanity.
Like it's just all over the place.
I want to watch this film again, very, very drunk.
Fair.
Because I feel like...
Maybe you'll understand it then. Maybe that's why.
There is a part of my brain, no matter how small it is, going, this is an art style that you can't comprehend. There is something here. Because the performance of Tom Hardy genuinely at times makes me think. There was like 3 or 4 times throughout the film where Tom Hardy has a really amazing scene, and I'm like, right, here we go. We're about to get something really cool here, and it just doesn't quite work. And it ends. Spoiler alert: the Xenophages corner them. There's nothing they can do. The only way to make it so they can't get the codex is for them to separate and stay away from each other. Yeah? So what happens is Venom kind of lies to Eddie and is like, oh, we're going to fight him in a blaze of glory. So they go out there to get all the Xenophages that have arrived to come and get them. And then Venom jumps off of Eddie and kind of takes over a Xenophage, which I don't know why none of the other symbiotes try to do this at any point, but whatever. And then he essentially grabs them all and drags them over to an acid bath that got established in the first 15 minutes of the film randomly. The only thing where they've established something really weird and paid it off, by the way, was this acid bath.
Fucking hell.
And the general, who's been trying to kill Eddie for ages because Eddie killed one of his soldiers, forgetting the xenophages which killed dozens of his soldiers, uses his eyes, because it's a retina scanner, to launch the acid bath to try and kill the xenophages. We'll ignore the fact that these xenophages have been blown up, chopped to pieces, and they always reconstitute. Acid is the way to deal with them, apparently.
Everything's got a weakness.
Yeah. So eventually they die in quite a gruesome death scene that takes a weirdly long amount of time. And then Eddie goes to New York and is kind of living a normal life, and we get like a what's the song? The best days of our life. I think it's Green Day or something. As he's and we just get like a montage of the 3 films as he's like clearly reminiscing on his time with Venom. But a lot of the clips are from 15 minutes ago in this film.
That honestly, you recalling this film makes you sound drunk.
I sound fucking batshit insane. But I actually genuinely, and this is going to sound hilarious if you've got this far through this, I recommend watching it.
I mean, I can see that it. I can see how this is an enjoyable film, and in the context of the trilogy, and like outside of all the Sonyverse stuff, like just for the Venom stuff, I can see you somewhat enjoying it. Like you say, like that era of superhero films, it's a bit wacky. Just don't question shit.
Exactly that. You know what it is? It's the perfect training film to get your brain to suspend disbelief a little bit better. People have got too nitpicky with stuff, as we've discussed before, and they're not very good at suspending their disbelief anymore. I think this film is like should be used as a training tool of just like don't question it. Because if you don't question it, you're gonna have so much fucking fun.
Well, yeah, people have got too used to wanting to know why something is like with every detail. Like, what's that? Why is that? Like, and now, yeah. I mean, do you think the Sonyverse is going to continue?
Yes.
Is it going to rely on Craven?
I don't think so.
Oh.
That's my early prediction.
Oh, here we go.
Is they are going to use Spider-Man 4 to give to set up Tom Holland getting the symbiote in Secret Wars.
Oh,
okay. as he did in the comics. That is going to create a new codex, and then Null is going to come after that codex, and you're going to have Spider-Man fighting Null.
So you think they're going to join forces, Marvel?
I think that is I think that's Sony's plan. I don't see any other logical way to do this unless the random symbiote human that happened at the end with the doctor lady, where they didn't even name the symbiote. I think it's Lasher. Unless they decide to try and make a Lasher trilogy work, and then they make Lasher fight Null, it makes zero sense otherwise.
I don't think Sony's smart enough to team up with Marvel.
Neither do I, but that's the only thing that makes sense right now.
I see a world where it becomes all reliant on Craven, and we just get some trilogy of Craven films where he's hunting, and it's going to lead up to him hunting Null.
But Null's in prison. They need to get Null out of prison first.
This is Sony.
Which can only happen with the Codex.
Yeah, but you say this, but Sony will just have a film and be like, Null's out.
Yeah, I just...
They'll be like, Null's out, and you'll be like, but what about the Codex thing? What Codex thing?
Either that, or, and this is possible, they decide to bring Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man back as the Sonyverse Spider-Man. Because people will turn up and pay for that, and Sony know they will. Although Andrew Garfield won't say yes unless he thinks it's a good script. I do trust him on that.
I was going to say, I don't think...
And they try and get him to do the symbiote story and fight Null.
I don't think he'd come back for that sort of storyline.
He would if the script is good.
I don't know.
See, here's the funny thing, and like, I don't want this to sound like a dig, so please, if it does, don't take it that way.
Okay.
I think you view Andrew Garfield as the incredible actor he is, and the Oscar-nominated actor, and the guy who's done all them amazing films. My first introduction to Andrew Garfield, who I genuinely believe is one of the greatest actors of his generation, was in them Spider-Man films, and how excited he was to be Spider-Man, and how excited he is every time he gets reminded he was once Spider-Man. If Sony come to him with a script where he gets to be Black Suit Spider-Man and fight Null, and he believes the script is good, he will take it. But the good news is, because he's such a good actor, if he thinks the script is good enough, it is actually good enough.
Don't get me wrong, like, one of my first introductions was him as Spider-Man. But I'm more of like, I think that he will be... It's been a while, and I know he still looks back on those films like he loved playing Spider-Man. He loves when people ask him about it, like, and he has so much love for the other two. I just think he's not very easily... Like, the longer it goes, the less likely is he going to want to mess with that chapter.
I completely agree.
I don't believe Sony can make a good enough script for him.
Do you know what I think Sony should do if they are desperate to make a Spider-Man film with Andrew Garfield and they want to make a fuckload of money?
Work with Marvel.
They take the ongoing Ultimate Spider-Man comic, which they don't have rights to, but they find a way to make it work, of Peter Parker being married with kids at the start, and they make that story with Andrew Garfield now that he's an older dude. He still looks young, but he's like in his 40s now. And they do that, and that they will make more money than God himself would know what to do with.
I mean, if they really want to do... If Sony had their head on straight, they could... Exactly. They could have... If they don't want to work on a... Like, with the Marvel and Tom Holland and, like, can't agree on what... And they want more control, they could have bounced off the last Spider-Man film with Andrew Garfield returning to his world universe, and they could have made a run, like, just taken that and run with it a little bit with the right script and stuff, doing stuff like you say. Maybe he's older, maybe like they could have capitalized off that instead of the mess that they have created in the Sonyverse. But this is Sony. I'm at a point now, and I'm not... I know we shouldn't fully believe conspiracies and stuff, but I'm getting to a point where I believe that Sony doesn't actually care if they make a good Spider-Man film. They're just pumping them out so that Marvel can't have the full rights.
That is exactly what it is. At this point, they are just protecting their rights.
And I think they won't do anything with Andrew Garfield because that'll cost them too much and too much time and effort to get a good script to try and get him on board. They can just keep pumping out half-assed messes of a film. And...
See, here's the thing, like, how much is Sony worth as a company? I know it's fucking ridiculous. Sony value. Sony
Films.
No, because it all comes under Sony. You got to view it as Sony.
True.
Sony, what would it be? It's not value, it's net worth. Yeah, Sony's worth 107 billion. The Sony group. Do you know how much it would cost to get them to give up Spider-Man IP? Everyone's like, just buy the IP back. It's not that easily done.
Oh, no. Sony, and here's the thing. Sony knows what value that is to Disney. They're not going to just, like, let it go.
in the modern era, I genuinely believe the Spider-Man, and bearing in mind it's just Spider-Man film rights, and I believe TV rights, not the comic book rights, not the video game rights. Like the Spider-Man video games, everyone assumes it's a Sony exclusive because they own Spider-Man. It's not. They still had to get that from Marvel, I believe. I genuinely believe just the rights they have for Spider-Man is worth well over 20 billion.
Probably.
And I believe they've given Disney the opportunity to buy that rights for about that amount, and Disney have gone, we can't justify that. And I get why they can't justify that. But I also don't think Sony are like overvaluing it. Could you imagine how much more money the MCU would make if it had complete creative control over Spider-Man?
This is what I agree. I think they have the value of Spider-Man, which is a solid amount. I think they are trying to then charge Disney above that because they're like, oh, yes, this is the value of Spider-Man IP, but for you to have the Spider-Man IP amongst all of the Marvel, this is the value it adds to you. So this is like, what it, like.
It's like one of the Monopoly trades.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, but if I give you this green, you're going to have all greens.
Yeah.
That means it's worth more than the face value because you're going to be able to build properties.
That is 100%. It's like, this is the final property in your set. This is like, yes, this is what it's worth. This is what the set's worth. So we're meeting you in the middle, and Marvel's going, yeah, but that's not how much it's worth. And they're going, well,
I genuinely think that's why they went and got Fox. Yeah. Because with Fox, they got Fantastic Four and X-Men, which are two of their biggest other IPs, but they could also justify it to Disney because Disney gets all of the sports stuff that goes along with that, all the news stuff that goes along with that, which has value in and of itself. So they're like, yeah, you buy Fox and you get the stuff that you want from Fox, and then we get the stuff we want. And that can also, because we then have kind of more power about the comic book movie distribution, we can maybe put a little bit more pressure on Sony because we can kind of go, well, we don't need Spider-Man. We've got Wolverine again now. Like, that kind of vibe.
Part of me is now at the point where I think Sony just out of spite are half-assed in these films purely just to hold on to it.
I will give them the credit that I don't think it's spite. I think it's an element of that I genuinely believe Sony have gone, we will give you back the film rights we have for this amount of money. And Disney have gone, we're not going to pay that. And they were, well, we will make sure that these rights don't elapse. And we don't care about the quality. But the weird thing about that is the amount of money they're still spending on the films.
Yeah, but this is also Sony who threw, what was it, like 800 million to a fucking game that just shut down after 7 days? Like,
yeah, true.
Sony will burn money for the sake of it if they want to. I actually think you're kind of on part, like the right wavelength of, they've said, this is how much it's worth if you want to buy this off us. Marvel's like, what the fuck, that's way too high. And they've gone, fine, not going to get it back any other way. And they're now kind of, they don't give a shit if they're half-assing these films, and it makes Spider-Man look bad. Because that also then adds pressure on Marvel to get to the point of like, okay, this is now starting to make us look bad because people are associating us with, like, they're trying to pressure them to buy.
There are an ungodly amount of people, I promise you, and I know we won't feel like it because everyone we talk to kind of understands it, that do not understand that the Sony Marvel films are not MCU films.
Oh, there'll be plenty of people that don't get that.
More than not, I would, like, in the general public, when you consider how much money, like, Endgame made, the people who watched them films will not, like, the majority, 60-70% of them people will not understand the difference between made in association with Marvel and just Marvel Studios is a massive distinction.
They'll just say it's like, oh, why do these characters not get to, like, associate with the other ones? Like, why have they not been in the Avengers films yet and stuff? Like,
and that would have only got worse when Tom Hardy made a cameo in No Way Home.
That 100%. But yeah, I mean, Sony, what can we do?
But yeah, if you've got however much it costs for a cinema ticket in your local area and you want to have a weird fun time, I do actually recommend Venom: The Last Dance.
Down a bottle of tequila and then go watch it.
Honestly, yeah, do it.
Drink responsibly.
Let's get some nerdy news.
Yes, let's.
And other alcohol brands are available. You don't have to drink tequila.
I mean, tequila's not. It's not a radio.
Destin Daniel Cretton, the director of Shang-Chi,
Yeah, we love
has officially been confirmed to be directing Spider-Man 4. We heard this rumor a long, long time ago, and we both were very, very popular proponents of this idea.
We both
like
love Shang-Chi.
We know Tom Holland can nail choreography. That dude's background is in dance. He will learn a set of moves and perform.
We know that he did a great job with Shang-Chi, and he fully gave the runway to the stunt coordinators and the fight choreographer. Like, he let them do their thing, and it paid off massively for that film. He's gonna do the same for Spider-Man. Like you say, we know Tom can do a lot of his own stunts, and his gymnastics and stuff comes into play into that. They're gonna run with that. They're gonna have fun with it. I can already see.
Yeah.
Great choice.
The dynamic duo project from the DCU is reportedly targeting a spring 2028 release.
God. Wild that we're thinking that far.
Do you remember when it was really common to be working that far in the distance, and then COVID happened and everyone was like, we're never planning that far in the future ever again? It looks like we've now recovered from that. To be fair, with the script writing that will need to take place, and then the level and style of animation they're doing, where it's like claymation, live mocap, CGI and all that, I imagine that kind of animation takes an insane amount of time.
Oh yeah, it won't be a quick film to make.
It's a show, I believe.
A show, but I mean, yeah, they obviously, if this is like getting greenlit, they've got to be. It's going to be a while till we see this project.
My only concern is if it's really good, are we then going to have to wait 4 years for season 2?
Depends if they do it as like a one-off season or
maybe.
Depends.
But interesting.
Yeah.
We also don't know if that's going to be Elseworlds or DCU.
True. I somehow think it's going to be Elseworlds.
When it's that far in the future, probably.
Yeah, because like...
Bearing in mind that we know the first Batman film is supposed to have a Robin.
Yeah, and like DCU will have already got running by this point. So it's like... Yeah, be interesting.
There are rumours circulating that we will be getting our first Superman trailer mid-December time. I believe there's an event in December. DC event December.
Well, has this not also come because James Gunn tweeted something about he'd been working on the trailer?
Yes. So he'd been working on the trailer, and there is an event or something that DC are attending. I want to say between like the 6th and 12th of December.
I mean,
and people are like, that could be right. I think it's more likely to be a teaser than an actual trailer, if there is one.
I have prediction.
Okay.
We get a teaser, like you say, at whatever this December event is. We get the trailer at the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl trailer
for Superman.
That would hit like the premiumest of crack cocaine. Not that I've ever partaken.
For marketing, everyone knows the Super Bowl is some of the most watched ads.
And Superman is the most American iconography of superheroes.
I find it hard to believe that the first trailer will not be a Super Bowl trailer.
I completely agree. And that's also like the right amount of time before the film's supposed to come out.
Yeah, exactly.
And bearing in mind, we also reported a couple of weeks ago that apparently it's going to be marketed in a similar vein of Barbie. With like that level of marketing.
Oh,
that's exactly what you do. In fact, was Barbie's first teaser with her being like the massive tall doll, not for the Super Bowl? Possibly. It might well have been.
I mean, they're going to go ham with the marketing. It's the launch of the DCU, like, in the best sense. Like, obviously we're getting Creature Commandos, but like, this is going to be the launch. So,
yeah, very exciting.
We'll wait and see.
Joker Folie à Deux is already out on digital, less than a month from the theatrical release.
I saw this. Do you
Sorry,
think...
I can't go on this rant again. I can't do
I was
it.
gonna say, I saw it and I was like, oh, Connor's gonna be annoyed. But also, like, in terms of that film and the mixed response it got, at least this might potentially give it a chance for the people that didn't see it in the cinema to try and help boost its reception a bit. Like, it almost feels like, are they trying to do a bit of damage control?
I never want to be the kind of person who's like, I suffered, so you have to suffer.
Hmm.
However, when I was younger and we couldn't afford to go to the cinema because I was one of 3 children with 2 parents, that's very, very quickly expensive to go to the cinema. I had to suffer through hearing this film came out, it was great, and I couldn't go to the cinema to see it. And then once it was done in the cinema, when they got longer theatrical releases, I then had to wait another 6 to 12 months before it was on DVD and inside the house for me to watch it. If motherfuckers are not going to turn up to the cinema to support these films in the cinema where they actually can make money still, because DVD sales don't exist anymore and streaming doesn't pay anywhere near as much and is literally harming the filmmaking business, fuck them. They can wait 6 months. Force people to make the decision of go watch it in the cinema or wait at least 6 months.
Here's the thing, though. It's not the viewers making the decision for it to come out.
No. But
I think, unfortunately, it's the execs that have learned if they release if a film goes badly, they can just put it on digital 3 weeks later, kind of damage control, because suddenly it gets a boost in viewership and maybe the reviews improve.
Maybe. It's just I don't like it, and don't get me wrong. I get the money argument because it going on digital, it makes it like $10, and then if you are a family of 5, you can finally watch it together. And I don't want to punish them people because they aren't the problem, but
3 weeks is still like there's a middle ground.
We're destroying the cinema experience, and it's a fucking sacred experience. It's one of the few ways that the working class person still has any fucking chance to interact with art.
Even then, it's getting harder.
But like, what else is there?
Yeah,
the 2 realistic ways that a working class person can interact with art is cinema and concerts. Concerts have been destroyed for about 15 years now because fucking Ticketmaster is somehow allowed to do their own price surge and scalp their own fucking tickets. And even if you get past that, someone's going to buy a ticket for 80 quid, which is already extortionate, and then resell it for 10 times the price.
Well, yeah, I mean, music concerts have gone from, like, there is now, if you're a new artist, early to, like, their music, you'll get a ticket for, like, 10 to 20 quid. A year later, they could have blown up and suddenly it's 5 times the price.
I can literally give you an exact example of that right now. Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah.
Jenna has listened to her music for a few years. She was on tour here last year or the year before. Jenna decided not to get tickets. They were like 20 quid each. She's obviously got a lot bigger in the last year. She's doing another tour. She's come around again. Jenna, look, tickets were 100 quid a pop.
This happened to me in college with Macklemore. I listened to him for years where he was nothing. His album came out with Thrift Shop on. He toured in the UK. Didn't go because I was gone on my own. I was like, don't fancy that. Next year, within a year, Thrift Shop blows up on the charts. He's doing stadiums. Can't afford it. Like, yeah, it's the same. Like, film is getting to a point where there's no low end. It's just creeping up into the. Before you know it, there is going to be a world where it's like 15 to 20 quid for a ticket.
Yeah. Like, I know we've joked about it before. If this was to ever go nuts and give us like the kind of backing where we could launch a business, I'm absolutely going all in on cutscene cinemas. We're going to make it so that it runs, so it doesn't lose money, but it's not like trying to make a profit. We're just going to go, here is a cinema that anyone can get into. We don't care about making millions from this, or we just want to make sure that it's going to be here 1 year from today. And then 1 year from that day. It doesn't need to be profitable. We're just going to get films on the big screen.
You just find ways to supplement the cost of running the cinema.
Yes. That would be a fucking dream. Ignoring the fact that we would find something. If that was the case, me and you would then be able to watch films together, which would be fucking lit. Like, it'd just be nice to have a cinema that I know I'm like the protector of. Like someone who hates cinema comes in and then you go down dressed as Gandalf. You shall not pass. Type shit. I've not got insanely passionate, angry about something for a few weeks, and this this makes my blood fucking boil. Cinema is a cornerstone of the world, and it's just being left to fucking rot so that some CEO can get an extra 6% on his $100 million a year package. Fucking joke.
On to good news.
Yes!
The Bear.
I thought you were going to take it away.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was just like the transition. The Bear, season 4. We're very excited for this. Already done most of its filming, with a bit more to be done in February. Still on track for summer next year.
Yeah. So this was revealed by the FX CEO on a podcast.
Oh, okay.
Where he's gone, we've done a lot of the filming. There's a bit more to be done in February. We're well on course for season 4 to hit summer 25, which would mean 4 seasons have come out in 3 years.
I mean, it tracks because I think they had, while there was filming season 3, I'm pretty sure they carried on and filmed a little bit of like the first stuff for season 4.
Their initial plan was to film them back to back. But then Jeremy Allen White, because of the success of season 2, got offered other projects, and to play nice, I believe they moved some stuff around so he could go off and do another thing. So they filmed what they could. He went off, did the other thing. Now he's going to come back for it. I believe is kind of how it might not have just been him. Obviously, a lot of people in that have done incredibly well.
Yeah.
Obviously, Cousin's been off filming Fantastic Four.
Matty's launched a cookbook.
Big stuff going on from everyone involved there.
But I mean, like you say, we've had 4 seasons in 3 years,
which used to not be crazy. Now unheard of.
Loving it though.
Yeah, so good. Give me more. 6 seasons in a movie.
Marvel TV.
Yes. So, do you know? Are you aware of how this kind of got leaked initially?
No, I just saw. Was it yesterday? It all started.
So
getting posted.
the Slate trailer that's done the rounds was accidentally.
Accidentally? Ryan Reynolds accidentally?
No, genuinely accidentally.
Okay.
It went live early on Disney Plus. They were putting it at the beginning of some episodes.
Oh.
And it accidentally went live like a day or two early. I think it was supposed to go live today with the Agatha.
Someone pushed the wrong build.
Yeah. I think it was due to go live today with the Agatha finale.
Got you.
But it didn't. It went live a couple of days ago.
And then people saw.
So it gave us a bunch of footage for until December next year.
Yeah, they often do these once a year.
Yeah, it was like I guess you call it like a show reel. Is that the right term?
Yeah, show reel for what's coming.
Of what's coming, and it gave us some dates. So, what if season 3 will be dropping on December 22nd? We knew it was expected in December again, but it's nice to have a firm date on that.
Yep.
Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which was due, as far as we knew, to come out on Saturday, November 2nd, has been slightly pushed to January 25th.
Little last minute on that.
Yeah, I don't know why that's been so quietly pushed. Because we, a couple of weeks ago, saw a rumour for that, but we were like, we've only seen one person report it, we're not going to jump on that.
Do you know what I bet it is? Because of its like mixed response on animation style and stuff, you've not got the people that like are constantly digging for stuff, probably haven't paid it as much attention, so they've
quite possibly
missed being able to leak that.
Then Daredevil Born Again will start on March 4th.
We got a first look.
We did, it looks good.
Yes.
Ironheart will be coming out on June 24th.
We also got a first look for that, which looks
very
good.
Eyes of Wakanda, the 4-part animated show going through the history of Wakanda and the
different warriors,
the soldiers throughout time, comes out on August 6th. Very excited for that. Just something fresh and new is always fun.
Yep.
Then we've got Marvel Zombies in October 2025. We don't have a date on that.
Definitely aiming for around Halloween.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're going to drop it all in one go or if it's going to be like a 4-part special and they're going to start at the beginning and have it finish around Halloween.
I mean, still pretty cool.
Yeah, and then Wonder Man, the show that has been cancelled and revived and silently cancelled and silently revived, and it was never going to happen, and it's the next big thing, is happening. We've seen actual honest to God footage.
Yeah.
It's coming December 2025.
It's, again, also looks really good from what we saw.
It's a real thing. I don't know a lot about Wonder Man. I'm going to do some deep diving. Based on the bit of research already done, it seems like the backstory we got for Mysterio in the MCU is him being a Stark scientist who goes rogue. And the Wonder Man backstory we seem to be getting of him being an actor who becomes superpowered may have been just flipped. Because in the comics, Quentin Beck was a failed actor. And it seems like Wonder Man may have been part of a company that kind of got destroyed by Stark. And then he was a little bit evil and became good. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure, though.
I liked that we got the Iron Man 2...
Oh, Trevor.
Yes, Trevor, who was also in Shang-Chi.
Yeah, he's back.
He's back.
He's making his films again.
Now he's an acting coach, which I love. So,
I'm excited for that with the quality of TV we've got. If they cook with Daredevil and Ironheart, I am going to be, especially when you bear in mind the films we've got coming out alongside these next year. If next year goes well, Wonder Man in December might have me bouncing off the walls going, this is new, we don't know a lot about it, and they've done such a good job with everything that I might be like, I don't know what's going to happen, I can't wait. So very, very exciting. A bit of an update on the Blade situation. So the news with Blade being pushed back broke early. It seems like it's kind of pushed everything back. The kind of rumored inside scoop is Marvel are trying to end the multiverse saga as soon as possible. And as a result, numerous projects have been pushed further back in the pipeline, with the only films now expected to release being Captain America in February, Thunderbolts in May, Fantastic Four in June,
potentially,
or July, Doomsday, Spider-Man 4, and then Secret Wars, which ends the multiverse. So maybe it's actually not as big a concern because we've seen other reports coming out that Mahershala Ali is really happy with the script as it's developing. They're getting ready to announce the new director for it. It seems like they may have actually gone, right, what needs to be done to end the multiverse? This, and this. Everything else, boom, cut any multiverse shit out of that, rework it. You don't need to worry about the multiverse.
Potentially. I think the worry of him, like Mahershala Ali getting too old, is still...
It's still very real, yes.
Yes. And he might be fine with it, but if it's one of those films that gets stuck in this limbo now of, as they're moving out of the multiverse, it's like, oh, well, that one can wait a bit longer. Is he eventually going to reach a point where he's like, okay, I'm done, or I've got this project now, sorry, but like there's still a chance that happens.
I've also just, this is completely random, and I may have actually said it before, I may have had the same thought twice at two completely separate times, which would be insane for me. I was just looking at the titles, and I've got Thunderbolts here, and I've of course got the asterisk on the end because that is the title. We know that imagine not necessarily we know, we're pretty damn confident that Sentry is in it.
Yeah.
And the thing with Sentry is he was a part of the original Avengers, but he got forgotten by the entire universe type beat. What if at the end of Thunderbolts, the asterisk is actually Secret Avengers? Because Secret Avengers is kind of like a Black Ops team. And all of the people on this team are very much Black Ops kind of guys. And like that's like the reveal. It's like, oh, I was an Avenger, and that stops them being the Thunderbolts and makes them the Secret Avengers.
I feel like you've had this
I
thought
think
of
a
them
lot
being
of comic book fans would hate that.
Avengers.
Yeah, I don't think they're the Thunderbolts. I know that like seems like an obvious takeaway with like Thunderbolts with an asterisk.
No, I know what you mean. It's gonna be some reveal, and part of me is like, do they do it on the title screen?
Which right at the very beginning.
Yeah, it's like almost like what Deadpool joked about it being.
Oh, what Ryan Reynolds joked about doing like
film.
Yeah, and like not marketing it as Marvel at all, and then you go sit it down, and like the 10 people who go to see
Deadpool.
it get a Deadpool film.
Like, what if it's Thunderbolts, and then it's like, I don't know, gets scrubbed out or something on it. It's like on a whiteboard, and they scrub it out and they write
Kang Dynasty.
Imagine.
I'm really
or it's going to be along the line of like when they're going to say, so what's our team name, and everyone's like, oh, they're going to say Thunderbolts, and then they say the actual title of the film.
Do you know what it is? It's one of the times where, like, you know me, I'm obsessing over this asterisk every time I like rethink about it.
It's nothing,
and it's just not going to live up to my expectation, and it's going to piss me off.
Do you know what it could be? It could just be like an internal Shield code name for this team, and then and then it's like, oh, that's the code name. The actual team name is this. Like it's in a file or something.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Dumb.
We'll find out eventually.
And the last bit of news, which literally broke about 5 seconds before we got start recording, which was really funny. We actually beat one for once. Gen V Season 2 has wrapped filming, and it is due to release summer 25? Yeah, summer 25.
Which it's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
Yes, obviously we've got left in an interesting position. We've had casting changes due to
unforeseen circumstances.
Yes.
Yeah.
Curious, as we know, that leads on from the last season of The Boys.
Yep.
And leads directly into the next season of The Boys.
Yep.
So it might be like a bit of like a fascist university or some shit. I really don't know. I'm really curious.
Well, yeah, we're gonna have overlap from the last season of The Boys, but there's obviously like we've got the ones captured, and then we've got the ones that are the Godolkin heroes, and they're part of Friendly with the Seven now. And it's like, so there's going to be some interesting dynamic.
Hopefully they can get Sam back on the good team side.
Hopefully.
It'd be fucking helpful.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if there's any new year group shown as well.
Yeah. It'd be kind of cool to get some new characters. But yes, that is it for the nerdy news this week. Thanks for always hanging out. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.